from?
My man, I'm from Orlando, Florida.
What part?
Well, honestly, my family, we've lived all over the O, but I'll say primarily Altamont is my home, but I've lived, from Silver Star to wherever else, and then I lived a nice little majority of my life in Jacksonville as well.
Okay.
You know,
As far as Orlando, us both being from there, as you were coming up and whatnot, what were some of the things you were seeing in the neighborhoods you were living in? Like, what was it like growing up in Orlando?
I'm gonna be real, bro. I was so young, I truly didn't know what I was looking at. You know what I mean? Like, especially being so young, and my older brother and some cousins and my uncle really being in the streets. I used to see see things like everybody smoking weed and chilling, and what I ain't know was hustling or them shooting dice. I'm thinking they just playing games like how me and my friends playing, but these are much older dudes and things of that nature. And I do remember seeing my first dead body at 9 years old. You know what I mean? But it was a dude being chased, and somehow he crashed off his motorcycle, running from whoever the hell was chasing him. You know, but I mean, typical street shit, honestly.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, my mother being such a queen, like bro, I remember we stayed in the projects, and I didn't even know it was the projects just because my mother bust her ass to really afford us, a good life no matter the circumstance.
Yeah, shout out to mom, definitely. What's going through a 9-year-old's mind when he's looking at a lifeless body?
Actually, I was there with some classmates of mine
Yeah.
because the school we were going to wasn't too far from the projects we were living in. So we all looking at it, and the teacher was just like a commentator or a narrator, like,
Oh, wow.
wow, yeah, his body's burning up in this hot sun, just beating. Oh my gosh, I don't know if he's lifeless. He's probably just knocked out. Or da da da. Nah, he was dead. I really didn't think too much of it. I was just that young. That's all.
Yeah. Now, as you're coming up in, the areas that you're in, what are some of the lessons you're learning, from the guys that you're around? What are the things that are being like imparted to you as important, as far as concepts?
Um, Truly, man. Uh, now that I'm much older, I can look back on these things and like actually develop a conclusion to the things I've learned. But during these times, I'm not even looking at it as lessons or attributes that I'm acquiring. We're just being reckless and just going with the flow. But I've learned so much from being like detail oriented, like really just needing to pay attention and be on point, being aware of your surroundings, and why it's so important to be motivated, and then why it's so important to you can learn from anybody. You know what I'm saying? You can learn from the dumbest guy in the world, but just simply knowing what not to do. Of course, you could learn from the people, like the winos or the crackheads on the street, of how not to be. Honestly, I even remember having a conversation with one time at a bus stop. Right, I never forgot it. I never forgot it. I was like 13 years old, waiting at the bus stop, and this one wino told me, "Listen, man, from the time you are a child, you have that little spark in you. Whatever you do, don't ever lose that. Whatever you do, don't ever lose that, because that's really your purpose in your life. That's going to be the making up of who you are." So I ain't never forgot that. And then I ended up watching the movie Soul, from Disney, and
Sure.
that is exactly what that movie pinpoints. You know,
As what was a typical day for adolescent Cam? As you're progressing now from maybe 13 to like, 18, things like that. What were you guys doing?
well, I could say 13, I wasn't doing nothing but just fucking off with my friends, but I didn't really like start hustling till I was 14. You know what I mean? So around some other dudes that taught me how to get money from selling weed, the pills, And then, eventually I graduated to, selling lean and boy, and years later out of prison, I ended up selling girl and shit like that. But a lot of the dudes, a lot of the dudes I was around. Okay, well, first I really wanted to be just like my big brother. My big brother and my uncle, but more so my big brother because when I turn on the TV and I see these dudes in a music video, this is who they're living like.
Yeah.
They're actually, living like that. Being in the streets, actually making money. I see how, I see the popularity everywhere we go. They're known. I see, they got girls everywhere. Like girls flock to them. I wanted all that.
Yeah.
So that's what influenced me to be around the crowd that I ended up being around. You know what I mean? I hung around gangbangers since I was like 13. Didn't even know didn't really know what it was. You know what I'm saying? I just, no, I turn on the TV, Snoop repping this flag and, this rapper maybe rocking this color and I'm hanging around dudes of, both sides are all different gangs. You know what I mean? And I myself started gang banging when I was 16.
At what age did you get incarcerated?
I was 24 years old. I was 24 years old when I got incarcerated. And honestly, man, I thank the creator all the time for it because that's where I truly found myself. That's where I truly, before being incarcerated, bro, I can admit I was lost.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So definitely prison helped me find myself and just I came into real divine knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, especially of self.
Now, within your home, what was the first spiritual experience you had? Like, what religion was your family practicing when you first started?
Pure Christianity, brother.
Which branch, possibly?
Not so much a branch because we weren't religious. Like my mom has always been spiritual,
Sure.
always been very spiritual. She's always had the most beautiful relationship with God. So much so that even when I was in the stomach, she used to talk about God to me, and
It's
we
beautiful.
talk about that to this day. And I thank God for it because that's why I have the relationship I do today with my Creator. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, it wasn't necessarily a spiritual house, but my mom ain't play about God or Jesus. Like it really was, you know, can't serve two masters. This is what we're doing here. This is, how we rock. We sit around certain days and go over the Bible. Even if we went to church on a Sunday, come home probably later that night, we going over that Bible. But every week she gonna make sure that we know scripture, we know how to pray, so that we able to stay guarded. And bro, I tell you, we've all really been through some shit in our lives, but we've always came out, the victor. We've always came out highly favorable.
That's a really interesting dynamic because you talk about, at home, righteous mom, knowing her, beautiful soul, indoctrinating you in something higher, the creator, religion, spirituality. And then you're living this other life outside of home,
Mhm.
and just finding that balance. How were you able to find that balance? How were you able to compartmentalize those two things?
Well, first, I was really just coming and stuff, like coming into my own. I decided that, this is who I wanted to be, and I whatever. It's not that I found, enjoyment of being around, well, and doing the things that I was doing, but this is obviously the path that I'm going on and going down, and it's making me okay. Well, first, I was raised up without my dad. You know what I mean? And although I did end up having a stepdad, he wasn't around like that because we actually living in two different cities. He was living in Jacksonville still.
Yeah.
So, of course, I don't really have too much of a male figure. And my brother's always either in the streets or in and out of jail, and then eventually ends up going to prison.
Yeah.
So, I really self-taught how to be a man. So I don't know too much about being a man except, well, keep in mind at this time, I don't know too much about being a man other than, okay, you got to be tough. You don't cry, always look a man in the eyes, just the basics. So that's why I really didn't mind going through what I was going through and going down the path I was, because I knew that I'd be hard into it. You know what I mean? So as far as that, um my bad. What was the question again?
Yeah, we were, just seeing how you could kind of divide it
Oh, right, right.
between the two of
Okay.
having a righteous home and then being out there, being
Right.
outside.
So and this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but that was actually, well, it's the significance that I found in my brother always, kind of quote unquote fucking up, I guess you could say,
Yeah,
because seeing the path that he went down, like my mom really wasn't having that shit with me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So, but what that did was it made me move smarter. I mean, I hated it. I had to, a lot of my, I'm looking at my mom having to lie to her about what's going on, or keep half my life from her. You know what I'm saying? But it definitely made me move smarter. Though I can say that.
Now, I always thought one of the most interesting parts of your story was, now that you're in prison, you found a new faith. When we talk about your path as an Israelite and
Hmm.
stuff like that, I'd really love it if you got into how did that come about, inside.
Well, first, before incarceration, I'll probably say, bro, maybe when I was like 19 or 20, like I really realized that there was more than Christianity. Like, our God is truly bigger than just this Bible, and is bigger than just this religion. That there are, you know, uh, truths and other religions, and you know, other religions is really just like one big truth broken up into fragments.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and plus, honestly, just Christianity alone, like honestly, almost drove me crazy at one point, bro. Because of how I grew up, like my mom instilling Christianity into us so heavy. It's like everything I did, all I could think of was it's either heaven or hell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even with that thinking, yeah, I was risking it, but still, like I got tired of that just being like having to having to think that every time I'm doing some shit. And I remember times that I've almost had like, mental breakdowns, and nobody's ever known that. This is literally my first time sharing that. You know what I mean? Um so I just, started delving more into other knowledge first. So I've even studied, okay, the first thing I studied outside of Christianity was, demonology and Luciferianism. Not to, of course, become of that, but I did want to know, things from like the other side or whatever. I'm very open minded,
Yeah.
and I'm very guarded, so I could study these type of things and not, be influenced to want to be that. So when I did become incarcerated, um, I read a lot. I read a lot. Most of the time I could stay to self, I'd read. And when I'd politic with other like-minded individuals, and so I came into other books, other knowledge or whatever. So the first real not religious group, but the first other like denomination, I guess you want to call it, that I'd build with was the 5%ers.
Okay. And for
Which
people who don't know what that is, what is the 5% organization?
5%ers are also known as the God bodies. Uh, was started by Clarence 13X, who originally was of the Nation of Islam, and he broke off because he really knew that there was, almost like me, he knew that there was more than just religion, even in being of Islam, and there was more to Allah than just what they teach as a Muslim. So he found, well, his conclusion was knowledge of self, God within, but through Allah, but in the aspect of arm, leg, arm, head, just self. Um,
So you started interacting with them.
yeah, I did, and the significance of that was it really helped me search further within for my God and the kingdom within. It helped me look at myself as God, which I do know to be true. I know that each and every one of us are God.
Ifa says this, especially with the concept of ori. There has to be God within us for us to be able to create, procreate, speak, all these different things. So
Right. And actually, even in the breakdown of human, which in itself is a compound word of hue and man, in the slight esoteric knowledge, hue meaning color and man meaning mind is color mind. And you break that down even further, color meaning creative and man meaning God, or mind being God, creative God, just
yeah,
what we are, you know what
yeah.
I mean? So it helped me come into more of a knowledge of self. But I didn't stop there because they don't believe in one almighty supreme power. So I could never fully, be a God body. So from there, man, I delved into other knowledge of Hinduism and Buddhism, which I became stronger spiritually, developed a more of appreciation for just the powers of nature, you know. From there, came into the knowledge of Gnosticism, and man, I tell you, that's like it's almost like metaphysical Christianity, you know. So whereas, and this is just my opinion for all the viewers watching, not to offend or disrespect
Oh, of
nobody.
course.
Yeah, the comments gonna be like,
Mhm.
you know, mean Christians. But so whereas I feel Christianity is kind of just one sided, just like based on the book, Gnosticism is almost like the truth in fullness, because Gnosticism recognizes the Bible and everything that pertains to it in its fullness and all of its metaphysical, its physical and literal, figurative form, everything. You know what I mean? And even recognizes, you know, the truths of Hebrew and just everything, bro. You know, so I actually thought that was what it was going to be for me. So I was heavy into that, and I'll tell you, while I was incarcerated, shout out my brother Enoch. While I was incarcerated, I got close with an individual named Enoch, and this was his Hebrew name, although I didn't know it at the time. So we're talking one day. Oh, my bad. We just get really close. We develop a great rapport and just become close. Phenomenal chemistry and all. So I don't know. One day, man, he introduced me to his Hebrew brother. Damn, I forgot his name. Messiah. He introduced me to Messiah, and then when he introduced Messiah to me, he said, "Okay, Messiah, this is." He looked at me and stopped for a second. He was just like, "This is Ezekiel," and then walked off. So I didn't get it at the time. I just thought, I don't know, bread tripping. But
Yeah,
okay,
regular
cool. Yeah,
prison
whatever.
nonsense. Yeah.
Okay. About 2 days later, Enoch is about to, Enoch is going around the whole dorm, like base checking the whole dorm. Which, for those of y'all who don't know, base checking means checking the shit out the dorm because his laundry bag came up missing.
Oh, he's popping off.
Man, what? He walking around with a vengeance. Any one of these bags that look like his, that's your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm peeping. I'm talking to somebody and I'm peeping it. So I, swerve off from who I'm talking to. And then, I go to Enoch and I'm like, bro, what's up? What you want to do? So he's like, you know what? Forget that because, honestly, the bigger picture ain't even about this. Yahweh brought you to me for a reason. So he brought me and Messiah both into the room. He was, and, put the curtain up so it was just us three. And Enoch said, listen, it's been placed on my spirit that your calling is to be a Nazarite of the Hebrew Israelites. So I'm like, okay. I'm just thinking, okay, keep talking. So he's like, man, your name is Ezekiel. That's the true name of your spirit. Da 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 da. Just going. And you know, thank God I've been blessed with the spirit of discernment. A good part of my life. So I could actually like feel just some light in the things that he was saying. So he gave me, the material I needed to, break things down and further do my research, including the dictionary, the source, the Strong's Concordance, which depicts and decodes a lot of meaning of words within the Bible. Um, metaphysical dictionary, a bunch of other stuff. So I went back to my cell. First thing I looked at was Ezekiel, okay, which means Yahweh will strengthen,
Wow.
okay, and then it had the qualities up under that, and I cannot make this up. I shit you not. Everything hit on the head. You know what I mean?
Wow.
First, strength is one of my most prominent characteristics of me. Strength, faith, and loyalty. But strength is definitely it because, like you and I built before. I'm not just strong for me. I'm strong for everybody. So people have always looked onto me for strength. Okay, so okay, I'm looking up all the qualities. Everything is me, dead on, and then it's helping me to realize who I've always been. So then I look up a Nazarite, and it is one who was consecrated, one who was separated from the world for Yahweh's divine will. Bro, I could, you can, you know my mom. You can ask my mom. One thing she's told me my whole life, because I've always been different. Always been different. Never understood why. I either I was always, cool and popular amongst a lot of kids, or even, with the popular kids, I was just always different. But my mom's always told me since I was young, Cameron, you're not gonna fit in. You're not gonna ever fit in because you weren't ever meant to fit in. You're different because God has you set aside, for His purpose. So man, when I'm reading it, all I heard was all the times my mom's ever said this. So I knew then that this was God talking to me. This is Yahweh talking to me. And honestly, bro, when I the day I got sentenced, this time 3 years before this, I remember coming back from court and being in the shower, shedded a few tears, but I'm still talking to God, telling him that I'm still here with him. I still believe in. And then I had three major prayers, and the third one was that God would reveal my true self to me and His true self to me, And it took 3 years to do it. And in these 3 years, that's when I went just truth seeking through all these different religions and denominations. And it's just how our God works. Because I was able to accumulate all this knowledge and wisdom, and it was like a full 360.
It's incredible. So after now assimilating that culture, that knowledge, all the different ones, when did you first hear about Ifa?
Okay, so in that same prison the next year, I was talking to someone who was just intrigued about the the culture of being an Israelite. So I'd build with him on certain things, and he asked me, he's like, "Have you ever heard of Ifa?" I'm like, "What is that?" Honestly, no offense or disrespect, but at the time, the way what we were talking about, because he was gang banging at the time as well. So what we were talking about, I thought it was a gang because that's how he made it sound. It's like, yeah, a lot of the people in Atlanta, like where I'm from, are Ifa. So I thought it was another gang. Then he explained to me, bro, this is really where we come from as Africans. This is our true culture. This is our true power. You know what I mean? And he just went on and on. And truthfully, I mean, it sounded good, but I wasn't too intrigued, until I got shipped to the next prison, and I was able to build with some brothers who are in Ifa, and these are both Nazarites and are fully of Ifa. And I didn't know how, but keep in mind first, our true culture as black people is Hebrew, and we're in the light of being Israelites. Okay, Ifa is a culture itself, but still of us. So there is no elimination. There's no
They coalesce.
exactly,
They find ways to fit in a way that don't interfere.
exactly. And like I said before, the truth is whole.
Yes.
All of it correlates. All of it is one with each other. There is no separation. So I was able to build with some real brothers, and it's like my eyes just got more and more open, you know.
What was the most intriguing part about it as you're starting to, converse with these men, interact with them? What was, as you're studying now, what is the most intriguing part about Ifa that's kind of drawing you more strongly towards it?
Well, with the knowledge and wisdom I already have, like for example, let's say the four elements, fire, air, water, and earth. I now see the Orishas over these things, whereas like these four elements are just simply categories, but they are real, they are real divine beings that are over certain I guess assignments, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
There's a god of doors, but not just doors. Literally, a god of opportunities and things like that, and just openings. There's a god of waters. There's a god of the ocean. There's a god of rain. A god of everything in the air. So that aspect right there, I think, drew me closer and closer. And then not only that, it's really empowering to the people. It shows you how powerful you are, what power you possess, and then who you really are. Your path that you are actually destined to take. And all of it is of great magnitude. So if we were all, honestly, if every human on Earth just knew, you know, their destiny and their potential, just imagine how much greater and more advanced Earth would be.
Or if they would be in line with their true purpose or their true desires. I think that's one of the things that plagues humanity is that most people aren't doing what they enjoy.
Right.
And I think
Right.
that's very dangerous because, if you have a doctor that doesn't enjoy performing surgery, you enjoy it, but at least you enjoy the gratification that comes from saving someone's life via this process. That's very scary to me.
Right.
Because I think about when I do something I don't want to do and how horribly it comes out. And then you imagine somebody operating on somebody and the catastrophic results that can come from that. I mean, I think that's why we're broken a little bit as a society, because there's a lot of frustrated, unfulfilled people.
Right. Right. And that's a major factor in, so many suicides and just things of that nature, man.
That loss of hope, definitely.
Right, right. Because I mean, bro, when we're not living our potential or not living our purpose and things like that, we're kind of just moseying on, and our light gets diminished, dog. That we're not able to. There's no passion in what we're doing. There's no passion in our walk. None of that.
You're just floating by.
Right.
At what point do you get into your studies or in your sentence where you're like, I'm going to move forward with Ifa. This is for me. What was that defining moment?
Brother, I couldn't wait to get out and really just. I knew I was going to. Everything I do my best to, be led by the Spirit. So I knew that I was going to be led to real Babalawos who would show me the way, who were of the light, and that would show me the way. You know what I mean? Special shout out to you. Got to, brother. Yeah, man. But I decided in there it was probably like, excuse me, it was probably like a little less than a year before I was released. That's when I was studying the most intensely with these brothers, and that's when I decided, yeah, this is definitely the path that I'd love to indulge in.
Were any of that group, were any of them Babalaos? Any of them, had they gone through any, like priesthood rites?
One.
Wow.
Yeah, there was one, and keep in mind, it's a few of us. It is a few of us who uh, politic together, on Ifa. But yeah, it was only one who was, real ordained Bible law.
Wow.
Named Tiger, yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting.
And he was one of my Hebrew Israelite brothers.
Wow.
Shout out to Tiger. He's still incarcerated,
Yeah.
but he ever come across this? Yeah, I never forgot you, brother.
No. Shout out to him for shedding the light upon somebody else, and being that catalyst towards your growth. That's always been an interesting dynamic to me because in the United States, the idea of about being incarcerated or anyone in our culture, it's really foreign. Luckily, right? But you go back to Cuba, this was actually very common because a lot of the brothers over there, I mean, being that we went from being kings in Africa to being slaves in the New World, our religion was marginalized to a point where we went from the palace to the inner city, to the tenements, to the projects, what have you.
Right.
And that comes with its situations, people, we're not signing, legislature there. We're doing whatever we can to survive, it's not always legal. So when the boat lift happens in the 80s, the Scarface era, whatever, everybody that came over was a Babalao. Everybody that came over was a Palero. Everybody that came over, that was incarcerated was in. So it's interesting to look at our history there and realize, we're men like everybody. Obviously, it's not an ideal situation, but, we make decisions, we repay our debt to society, and we move on. You know what I'm saying? So it's an interesting dynamic there. So now you're out. What were some of the biggest obstacles now, apart from Ifa reassimilating now back into society? What were some of those hurdles, getting involved again?
Some of the major hurdles. For one, staying away from the street life.
Yeah.
That's for one. Not coming back into the world reformed and indulging with the same people who I've grown up around, who I have major history with.
Friends,
yeah. Yeah, people who I've been close with. I've had to cut off, not because of their qualities as a person, but because of how they live in.
Yeah.
I'm on felony probation. I can't let any of this, I can't get wrapped up in what you got going on, brother.
Sure.
I love you, but I'm gonna holler at you. And then I did develop, the real discipline in there. So I wasn't in any hurry to get back out there and even catch up with friends for one. But I knew it's, what I was used to. So one of the biggest things was not getting back out there and just being used to whatever it is that I'm used to. And but even more so than that, the biggest hurdle is freeing yourself from these mental chains, the mental enslavement and imprisonment. And honestly, what's today's date? The ninth, right?
I'll take it.
Okay. I've been home now 1 year, 1 year, 7 months, and 9 days.
Wow.
Okay. Bro, that whole mental imprisonment, I'd say I'm just shedding the final, the final chains just a few months ago.
It's real trauma. You
Yeah.
got to think about it. A lot of your god brothers, I mean, you look at your god brother John, we were just talking about him. He was one of the Babalaos at your ceremony. We just interviewed him. His last bid, they gave him 17. He gave 7 back. He ended up doing, 10. Gentleman that raised me, Emilio, 12. I've interacted with a bunch, and it's that common theme, because you're placed into the most, from what I can tell, frustrated, stressful, toxic environment possible. You have a couple examples such as y'all selves, like educated, illuminated, trying to be positive, but you look at the overall mass of the population, these are people with nothing to live for at this point. These are people with no aspirations. These are people that are just focused on the society and organism that is prison.
Yeah.
And to be able to survive and get out, especially with what you guys have told me, anything from just light examples, whether, you're using your slippers to be able to sit down on the toilet without getting an infection, or you have. I remember when Emilio was incarcerated, it was when COVID was still thumping. I mean, he said, "Bro, we were in a cell. I think it was 4 of them. They woke up. One of the guys was just dead, and they were trying to leave him there because they weren't trying to touch the body. Like, especially in the state of Florida. Is that where you were?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is, you look at the scandals and everything that's come out, it's nothing short of horrendous, So it's war. I really don't see the difference between someone such as yourself and someone that came back from Iraq or Afghanistan, because you see the overall effects. By the grace of God, through your process, you've been able to find the strength and have the support of certain people to be able to overcome your own fortitude mentally. But a lot of brothers succumb to the trauma of what it is, I mean, I won't even say who it was, but, to the point where some brothers can't even hear keys jingling. You know what I'm saying? To the point where that'll set them off, or a door opening, just that constant, mouse mentality of I can't get caught up like that, So it's very foreign to the civilian mind, but it takes time. And you're looking at you going close on a year and a half, finally getting to a point where you feel free. It's not just they let you out and somebody picks you up and you mentally you're like, I'm able to accept my surroundings again.
Mentally and spiritually, I'm free.
Yeah.
And it's definitely the most beautiful thing. So now, I'm to a point where I can think a lot clearer. I know what I'm thinking about, because I'm very cognizant of my thoughts and also what I'm projecting. You know what I mean? Because coming out, I didn't realize what I was projecting.
Yeah, you're right out the jungle.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not even thinking about how I'm being perceived or any of that. That much I didn't too much care about, like how I'm being perceived. But in a sense I do, because I know I'm a very intelligent man, very logical. But I know I was probably doing some very illogical things to others.
Yeah, and then maybe not even realizing it just because you're conditioned at that point to go through the motions of what that life is.
Right, and then you have to keep in mind, bro, the people that haven't been through this, they're not thinking like that.
Of course
they're
not.
Thinking about that.
Yeah, no.
So you're really call yourself getting upset with people who can't even fathom what the hell you tripping about.
Sure. And most people aren't aware enough to even take the time to try to internalize that, like to actually mentally put yourself in that position. Most people wouldn't even put themselves through that because of the trauma that goes with it. So now you're out, right? What steps are you taking towards Ifa? Are you interacting with more people? Are you asking advice? How are you kind of, were there any fumbles or hurdles, before you ultimately arrived at our house? What was that process like?
Well, I say the steps that I am taking, as you know, I just received the hand of Ifa.
Yes, sir.
I don't interact with too many people just because, well, for one, I don't know too many people,
Yeah.
Here in the free world who are both of Ifa and like really have solid knowledge other than yourself and my uncle.
Yes, sir.
I do have some friends who are either of Ifa or Santeria.
Yeah.
But they're all my age or younger than me, and with age comes real solid knowledge.
Yeah.
Meaning not because of their age, but they haven't been in the religion that long.
Yeah, they're Ifa age. Yeah.
Okay. So I do build with the very few, including yourself,
Of course.
which I definitely thank you for. I do a lot of reading on it, and I'm taking the steps to properly communicate with my Orishas and properly pray and just go about everything the right way. That's one thing that I'm very meticulous about, just because I don't want to disrespect none of the Orishas or, nothing of that magnitude.
No.
Honestly, sometimes I won't even say the creator's name out of fear of getting his name or the pronunciation wrong. I
Yeah.
don't want to disrespect him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I tell you, you know what? I know the overall impact, but I want you to hear it from you. What has been Ifa's impact on you, Cam?
Okay.
What's the greatest thing you've been able to take away from it?
First, and the solace of knowing that it's truth. You know. So if we go back before my incarceration, right? I was like, believe I was 23 at the time. Okay, because it was August 3rd. It was August 3rd. Fuck man, like 2014. That's what it was. August 3rd, 2014. Before this day, I want to say probably like just like literally 2 weeks before. Um, I went to my uncle's padrino, and nothing major. I got a reading, and also I got the beads around my wrist and my neck, and you know what the beads around your
Mm-hmm.
wrist are for. So I only indulged for protection and being blessed, prosperity, things of that nature. So fast forward back to August 3rd, 2014. Truthfully, damn, my mom don't even know this, but she'll know now. But me and my lady, we were heading to work, and we were at a red light. All right, so okay, past the traffic light, you have the overpass or underpass, whatever, and from the underpass to the work site, there are no street lights, and this was at night. And this whole week it had been raining, but it wasn't raining, on this night. And up ahead, right before you get to my job, there's railroad tracks, and it was wet. There's potholes and all that. Oh, there's a whole like ditch full of water right by the railroad tracks. Of course, I don't know this up ahead. So anyway, the light turns green. I'm racing my girl. Like me and my girl, we just having fun, fucking racing, dog. Bro, I think I was probably going like uh, just like right below 70 miles an hour. Ended up fucking hydroplaning in the water. I started winning too. I was winning.
Oh man.
But yeah, right. Major loss. But ended up hydroplaning in the water. Brakes don't work. Nothing. Windshield full of water. I can't see shit. Only thing I seen was, beige coming up. And I knew what that beige was. It was the biggest street light. Like out of all the street lights, it was all the other street lights are these skinny steel posts.
Word.
This one is a big ass concrete post. So when I seen that beige, I knew what it was. I'm like, oh, this is it.
It's
I
over with.
probably ain't even had time to think like this is it. I probably just had time
It's a
enough to think
flash.
this is, and then bang. So, but by the grace of God, the car I was in, a Chevy Malibu, I think it was like a '07, '08 or something. But anyway, it was the first year that they started making drop box engines specifically for head on collision.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So car hit, spinning around. I mean, completely totaled. Like the whole hood was gone. So, yeah, bro, I literally walked out laughing, laughing because I'm still alive. You know what I mean? I still
Jeez.
got all my bones. I had a few little shards of glass in my
Yeah, of course. Minor.
arm. That ain't shit. Bro, after this, like, I know I'm not only am I supposed to be dead, I know I'm either supposed to be on fire or in like 1,000 different pieces, bro. So from there, I knew this is real. I knew this is real. I still always, give honor to the creator and as being the force behind everything. So that's how I'm able to, be a Hebrew Israelite and, fully indulge in Ifa. Because our God is not limited at all.
No, no,
You know
no.
what I mean? And truthfully, Ifa helped me realize, his magnitude, you know. So okay, fast forward, So now that I'm home, and when I came to the knowledge that, Santeria and Ifa, you know, how they correlate, you know, Santeria being a branch of Ifa. So now I know Ifa is real because I've experienced this time and time again, several times over. You know, I've with just this bracelet alone on my wrist, I walked out of the most impossible situations. You know, so I know this to be truth, and this is why I'm now committed to the religion. Which honestly, I don't even like to call it a religion.
It's beyond. It's a spirituality. It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle, and it gives results, and it'll save your life. I asked Cam, what's next for you?
What's next for me? It's really, man, it's really coming further, being further and further immersed in Ifa, and truly just breaking all limitations. You know, just further and further being my greatest self, which Ifa is going, you know, continues to help me do. So, yeah, truly just being the greatest version of me. I mean, I could sum it up, but then I'd feel like I'm categorizing myself. You know what I mean?
Your story is one that I've enjoyed so much, even apart from doing this, like just the countless conversations we've had. You know, one of my greatest honors is taking so many people in your family through this process, and you know, ultimately you, especially with what Ifa told you, your life path and destiny, your guardian Orisha. You know, you being basically welcomed home with open arms, and you know, just like we told you in your ita, and just like I reiterate now, I think with your story, with your origins, and ultimately where you're going with that moment of fulfillment, or even now, just the steps you've taken, I think you're going to be able to arrive and reach people in a way that some of us other brothers can't. And I think it's the demographic that needs us the most. And you are going to be a gateway path and beacon to that. So, you know, may 𝗃𝗲𝗹𝗁 bless you. May Yemoja bless you. You have our blessings. And, you know, we appreciate the time so much.
I greatly appreciate you, and I listen. Can't thank you enough. Can't thank the creator enough for leading us both together because you've truly been influential in, you know, my path and the making up of who I am today. So
I appreciate you, Bobby.
appreciate you, King Alafia, my brother.
And shout out to Mom and Grandma. You're going to put on your headphones. It's elevator music time.
Oh, her.
Bill, this is apart from the conversations, this is probably my favorite part.
Yeah.
of the show.
Well, that was a great episode, Cam.
That was fabulous.
Tremendous story. But we do have to show some love to the people that support the channel. That's right, guys. If you want to be a member of the Joseph Baba Ifa channel, it's really simple. All you have to do is hit that join button. It's directly underneath this video. We have 3 separate tiers for you to join, all with their own perks. So let's give some shout outs to our VIPs. We got Sheree Lee.
Sheree, thank you.
Annalise Trunzo.
Annalise, thank you.
We got 𝗃𝗶𝗹𝗁𝗲.
Oh, Bamola, hey.
We got Exhibit A NY.
Hey.
We got Box Chevy Champ.
Oh, man, I love that name.
That's right.
Shout out to Box.
Nothing beats a Box Chevy.
No.
And we got a shout out to our super fans. We got Punkin Maddox.
Punkin, thank you.
Katrina Allen.
Hey, Katrina.
And IK. So that is our shout outs for this week.
Awesome, guys. And until next time, Our Roots Podcast. See the light.
Holla.